finally see you face to face again. Yeah. New season here. How are the squad looking, first of all, given what happened last weekend?
Okay. It's. I don't want this to come out like I'm whinging. It's not a huge squad. People, and I'm not whinging. I really am not. But it's taken a few of the ill or infected different time frames to what we think is recover to a point where we think they're available for the weekend. Young Alex Bradley, for example, has really struggled, and he's subsequently probably unavailable for a couple of weeks because of it. I think everyone else has been alright. Lewis Simper's got a little problem that keeps him out, but I think everyone else has been alright after that. I think there was about 6 others, wasn't there? Yeah, I think the other 6 were good. Were fine.
And the longer term injured, of course, as well, they're going to be out. Is there any update on the likes of Ruben Reid and Mark Little?
Yeah, I think both of them, we should expect them around December, Christmas. I think if anyone was going to come back sooner, it'd be Ruben. But Mark, I think Mark had to undergo an operation for that. I've never seen it in 20 years. Put your foot down, rotate it the wrong way, and a ligament ruptured on top of his metatarsals that keep the metatarsals in position. So he's had to have them pinned. Metatarsals pinned. Mark, if you're listening, it's a new one on me. And look, there's a couple of things at the end of last season that I definitely didn't want to do this year, and that was moan about injuries, moan about referees. I'm going to moan about referees. I've been doing that already. So moan about that, moan about budgets and who spends this and who spends that. It's just not going to be part of my world. I've chose to kind of rid myself of those types of thoughts.
Yeah, and I guess it's frustrating not to start last season, but in some ways, has it helped you? I mean, you've had a chance to look at the teams that did start. For example, you say you were at Kings Lynn.
Yeah, I think we've had 3 weeks without a game, which is unheard of in the pre-season sort of programme. So that definitely doesn't help. Of course, that's obvious. It was nice just to get people back intermittently last week and early this week, just to get them back in and get the training group back together. We had to re-evaluate what was available, what was unavailable, what we thought was available to us, and the subsequent sort of strategy or shape that we'd use with those available players changed. So we've had to make those amendments, and I'm guessing the plus point was at least we've had time to kind of see those things in training rather than in the heat of battle. But that's the year it's going to be. This year is going to be about how we use what's available to us in the best way possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to open with a home game. Absolutely, as well, isn't it? Yeah. In that respect, and with the fans back for a full season, that will give everyone a boost.
Yeah, I mean, the less I think about last year in its entirety, the better. It wasn't the worst thing that obviously we went through, but it wasn't fun without the fans. I mean, and I take more stick than anyone at Yeovil by supporters because I'm the manager. But I even missed that. I miss swearing back at them. I missed all of the kind of interaction that we have. I miss celebrating. I miss winning games and clapping and and doing the song at the end. And I missed all those things. And that was a wonderful. I thought that was a real wonderful show. I know we got beat by Stockport in the last game of the season here, but the amount of time the players stayed out, the amount of time the supporters stayed out to give us a G up. I mean, it was a massive G up. I can remember waking up on the Sunday and feeling a million times better about everything, knowing that we'd had that interaction the day before. So, that it's nothing without them. It's nothing without them.
No. What would make a good season for Yeovil this time around?
Promotion, absolutely. It doesn't matter how many years we stay out of the Football League. It doesn't get any easier. It's still the aim. I still want to win every week. I still want to go to Stockport and take them on, and Wrexham's and whoever else, and because I'm making a conscious decision with my mentality and my attitude to try and impart a different attitude and mentality to the players, and that's okay, we are what we are, we've got what we've got, let's make it as good as we can, let's make the sum of our parts as high in value as we possibly can, and let's try not to lose anyone during the course of the season, you know. So and let's give it a good go. I mean, I just said to them, we just had a team meeting, and it's been my favourite pre-season in 21 years by a mile. Just their youthfulness, their enthusiasm. There's flaws to it, of course, but they've been so much fun. Great to work with. It was nice having a break from them. That sounds wrong, but it was nice to when Lee died, our relationships all changed. We all became, again, it's going to sound bad, we all became quite cuddly. It was all like, you know, how are you? You feeling okay? Which was in the moment the right thing to do. But I don't think it helped the process of winning and losing, which at the time wasn't the most important thing, but it is now, because eventually we all have to kind of dig deep and move on. So I think it was nice to have that break, re-establish those boundaries between staff and players, between the players themselves, and then freshen it up with new players that didn't have the depressive state that we went through, really, and it kind of lifted everything straight from day one. So I've really enjoyed this year, really enjoyed this pre-season. I feel really good about Saturday at the moment, and yeah, we will absolutely give it our best. We'll fight. I think these young people will fight anyway, because they're fighting for more than just their football club. They're fighting for their own futures, that they all believe they've got these potential futures in them, which I believe in them too. And I think it should make for an interesting viewing over the next, I think you've got to give it a month, whatever, but you go into the season, you think you know, and within a month you definitely know.
As we sit here now, we look out over the pitch, it looks in great condition, doesn't it? It's the park here at Hewish Park.
Yeah.
What sort of a game are you expecting on that almost carpet-looking pitch on Saturday?
Kingston, in the time they've been in the National League with Ian, have been a really good footballing team. Ian's obviously a very good coach. You can see that in his sides. They all have a very clear identity of who they are. They've probably retained a few more than what we did from last year. But they're all good games, and the fact that no one really knows how good the game's going to be, or how good Yeovil are going to be, or how good Kings Lynn are going to be, just sort of ramps it up a little bit, doesn't it? You know, and I know I'll wake up Saturday morning and it will be, a mixture of anticipation and a lot of excitement. And then by 5 o'clock it will be a mixture of one or the other, I'm afraid.
And I must just ask you finally about the squad. You say it's a lot of turnover. I guess you're always looking, you don't want to talk about budgets too much, but always looking to strengthen where you possibly can.
Well, look, I think that's my job. It's Scott's job to determine how much money we spend, because he's the business owner. I'm not the business owner, I'm a football manager. And I think when, I've made a transition between being a football coach or a developer and a football manager. And one of the key differences now when I speak to young managers, if you like, is I always say to them, don't ever stop asking for more. Because if you stop asking, you're just a football coach. You've been given a group of players, you've got to develop them. Always ask for more. So I ask for more on a daily occurrence. And it's Scott's job, that's his business, to decide what we can and what we can't have. But it ain't going to stop me asking. I'm always going to be asking, because that's what a football manager does. I mean, why would a football manager not want his team to evolve, get better, win more games, score more goals, play better football, concede less? That's all we want, because sleep for a football manager is an absolute goldmine. So, we want to come away on Saturday at 5 o'clock and make sure that we've done a good job. We can pat ourselves on the back very, very for a very short period of time, space of time, and then move on to the next one feeling really great about ourselves. And I think the biggest part of that, especially for the players in the dressing room as well, is that they know they've got a manager that's always trying to better the squad, always trying to better the team. Are there players that are going to be replaced? That's our duty. That's otherwise I lose my job. So I think it's a really important dynamic. I'd still like to bring in a couple more. We've got a couple of options at the moment that Scott and I are discussing. There's about a dozen options at the minute, but we're discussing 2. And if they come off before the weekend, great. If they don't, we'll do what we can. We'll put out what's available to us and have a right old good bash at it.
Darren, good luck. Thanks for your time. Appreciate
Top
it.
man.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
You can.
Why did you never have your video on during Zoom meetings?
Because I couldn't, because I was in a studio in
Ah.
the newsroom, so there's no camera in the studio. So it wasn't because I didn't want to see you.
I've been waiting for that.
Yeah.
I only recognise you by voice. Actually, if you just did a balaclava, I think it'd be the same thing.
Would it be unfair to say that the last 12, 18 months have possibly been your worst in football, taking everything into account?
Without question. 12 months, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different. Football plays such a huge part of your life. So when we finished the first time for the first lockdown, we were 4th. We were getting our act together again after a bad January, probably early February, but we were getting ourselves back together. And but when you shut down 4th. It's not the worst position. You know, we'd all like to be 3rd or 2nd or 1st, but we're in a strong position. So all that lockdown was for us was waiting. There was no real stress on us. Scott kept the business running brilliantly. Players bought into keeping the business running. Everyone did their supporters did their unbelievable job with the money they raised. The last 12 months have been catastrophic. So, even I played them some of the footage from the first Kings Lynn game at their place. We played on the telly. We all always play really well on the telly. And it was crap. And then you fast forward. The worst one was when we had the 10-day isolation for COVID just before Christmas, and we came out a day before Christmas Eve. We trained on Christmas Eve. I'm a big believer in people having Christmas Day with their family. Some aren't, I am. And then on Boxing Day we got stuffed at Torquay. That was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And then, the obvious stuff.
Mm.
It was catastrophic, absolutely catastrophic. I don't want to do this job if that's going to be the job, because it was horrible, beyond belief. And it still is. It's easier. It's definitely easier when you think about Lee. I still walk past his picture every day. Still, very, very sad, but there's a balance to the sadness now, rather than the absolute sort of depressive, destructive state that we all went into. It was unbelievable. And irregardless of the results and performances after Lee died, those lads going out there, some of them are still heavily struggling now. Them going out there and playing, I'll take me out of them. Absolutely. As the Boreham Wood game, I never want to do that again. No. I'm not. I ain't that strong a character to do it again. So I think, like I said, when we did at the end of the game, when we had that sort of half an hour with the supporters, I woke up on Sunday morning and I did feel better. I felt lighter in my head. I didn't feel as, here come the jokes, I didn't feel as heavy, emotionally heavy. I felt a little bit lighter. And then I just wanted to make sure that we brought in players that were new, that had a new outlook on life. They'd not been part of the horrendous nature of what we went through. And it naturally lifted that cloud, it naturally lifted that cloud that was automatically over us. So, it's been, that 12 months was horrendous.
Nobody can underestimate the effect of Lee's death, but putting that aside, how do you feel that the COVID situation, if it can separate the two, which is very difficult, I know, but the COVID situation, do you feel now that that is beginning to recede? I don't think it is, but in terms of the numbers, but for the effect on you as a club.
Yeah, well, I hope so. It's worked against us in terms of the new rules almost now, because we're very young now, our group.
Yeah.
Very few of them are double jabbed.
Yeah.
That's not their fault. That's because we've started at the top, started with your mob,
Thanks, pal.
and we're working our way down, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and some of them are still, they've had one, some of them are still haven't had it, the illness. Some of them haven't got, you know, that sort of antibody and things like that. So I'm sure we're going to have ones or twos during the year. It was really hard coming out of the isolation period and playing within 2 or 3 days. It was, honestly, it was really, really hard. And it's all right saying, well, everyone's got to do it. No, I get that. Everyone did have to do it. But the opponent that you're playing didn't go through the same conditions leading up to that individual game. You know, so we went to Torquay. We were like a wet fish. It was crap.
But at least you won the return anyway. Let's not forget.
No, I know, but it almost like the measures that you can take in order to be as competitive as possible aren't aligned with the integrity of the other team.
No,
that's not their fault. It's definitely not their fault. But it is hard coming out of those isolation periods. I mean, we've seen here, especially with Alex. Alex has probably been affected the most after the last bout of COVID.
Yeah. And
he's really struggling to be able to get endurance and, you know, longevity of exercise into his body again.
Yeah.
So everyone's going to deal with it, but it's when you deal with it and who you're playing and where you're playing, you know, stuff like that. So, but hopefully we've got everyone through it in one go, because we had a fair few, you know, over the last couple of weeks. So,
is having a house, I'd say, full of players, but having 3 or 4. You know, that's obviously got to be a bit of a risk, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, one house had it all.
Yeah.
You know, one house had it all, and then we had a couple of strays, if you like, on the side, and a few staff. But one house immediately, boom, and it was one tested positive one day, then one the next day, then the next day. So then all their isolation periods are all at
different,
staggered times as well. Yeah. So we kept one in the house and we got 3 away. You know? So it was what it is.
Difficult. You know, new season, are we likely to see a different Yeovil Town in terms of the style and the way they play?
Oh, I think you always see that when you have different players.
Yeah.
You have to. The one thing I don't want us to relinquish is that horrible, aggressive, determined nature. You know, it's Hartlepool were the most cautioned team last year.
Were they? Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, I want us to be competitive, and I want us to, because as a human being, we endear ourselves to people who try more than any other people. Forget about the super talented and flamboyant. You know, we all as human beings recognise when someone's trying their hardest, and we go, oh, he gives it a good go, doesn't he? And I think that's what people want to see. That's certainly what I want to see. I want to see people trying. Because if they don't like trying, that player then is unmotivated. Why is he unmotivated? Because the manager don't motivate him, and so on and so forth. The spiral goes on. So the one thing I don't want us to vacate is that real aggressive style. I really don't. The playing will change because the players are different. Yeah. And it will take us time. We haven't played for 3 weeks. We had 4 pre-season games 3 weeks ago. So it will take us time. But the one thing that we don't have to practice at is being very enthusiastic, high energy, and, you know, putting our foot in.
Yeah. Injuries, you mentioned you just got the 2. How much of a blow is losing those 2 for, you know?
Massive. Massive. Huge. Yeah. I mean, there's 3 over 30-year-olds in the squad, and 2 of them are injured. Yeah. So the 2/3 of the experienced players, or the sort of the senior players, they're unavailable to us. But you know, how good was Joe Quigley last year when he come in and led the line? So Joe, me and Joe have spoke a lot over the summer and in pre-season about his next jump. What is his next jump? Is it to carry on being the filler-inner, the substitute for Murphy, or the deputy for Reed, or whoever? Yeah. Or is everyone else now got to catch Joe? Yeah. And Joe's got a conscious decision to make in his life and in his career, whether he wants to be that guy or not. He's got all of the qualities to do it. So, you know, what my job is to give him that belief that he can and it will, and hope that it's the post that go in.
Do you feel that the league in general, but quite a few of the teams in particular, the bigger ones are getting even bigger in terms of the amount of money that's being spent
Yeah.
and the input of players.
Of course, and it's big clubs now aren't based on tradition and support. Big clubs now are based on how much money they got. That's it. Because if we're going on tradition and support in this division, we must be in the top 3. Must be.
Yeah.
Brilliant club, great part of the world, unbelievable supporters, banging that Thatcher's End over and over, jumping up and down. They're magnificent. But you know, we're going into we need to rationalise that some of these games we're going in as the smaller club, not because of the fans, not because of the stadium, not because we've been in the championship, just because of where we are in the in the economic sort of ladder. That's all right. It's not always the team that spends the most money that goes up. Sutton didn't spend much. Hartlepool wouldn't have spent as much as others. The year before, Harrogate wouldn't have.
No.
You know, Barrow, they wouldn't have. So it's all about trying to find that winning sort of dynamic, that mechanic that you can find. It's there, and just holding on for dear life, holding on to the coattails of runs of form, trying to reduce periods of poor form and defeat and habitual losing and stuff like that. But like I said, in 21 years, I've never enjoyed a pre-season like this. They have been absolutely brilliant to work with. So much fun.
But it might interest you to know that the non-league paper, which I'm sure you're aware of, they were absolutely ecstatic that Yeovil stayed in the National League, because their sales, when Yeovil weren't in the National League, had plummeted.
Yeah.
And because my son used to work there,
Yeah.
and once Yeovil came down, they're over the moon.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, in year 1, I think I did an interview with your lot, BBC.
What's that?
Was it the Bristol mob?
Yeah.
I did the cast.
The TV show, yeah.
So I did the cut, and they said, you know, and everyone had us at mid-table. I'm not saying BBC did, but the National League sort of group had us at mid-table. That was fine by me. No problem. We'll have to just work our way up higher. And if they've got us in a similar position to what we finished last year, which it normally kind of works off of, no problem. We'll have to prove a few people wrong again, won't we? It wouldn't be the first time in my life I've had to prove someone wrong. We'll have to do it again. And this young group, as bad as footballers or bad as athletes or bad a human being, or they have got a real ambition to a real ambition. So I'm excited to see what they're going to come out with. I really am, because again, we think we know. We get an idea, you get a whiff, but until they're 3,000 start booing when we've kicked it out after 10 seconds, or they start cheering because we've made a big tackle after 10 seconds, you don't know.
Bit of a sad day for me personally yesterday. Stuart Housley's death.
Very sad.
Did you know Stuart very well?
I
Or?
didn't know. No, I didn't, unfortunately. I think because of, really I've only had a year of getting to know people, because of last year. I've not had that real sort of contact with people apart from my players and yourselves, really. But it's very sad. It just feels at the minute like death is all around us, and it's one footstep away all the time, and it's very, very sad, mate. It's very, very sad.
He was such a character. That was the thing about Stuart, and he's been here for so many years.
Yeah.
When I was here working and all the rest of it, he's an absolute diamond, I tell you.
The best get taken before the worst, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. Finally, Ipswich, what we talking about? Kings Lynn.
Nice one.
Mine's wandering.
No matter way then.
Kings Lynn, you beat... First game was a draw, wasn't it?
2-2, yeah.
Yeah, and then we beat them here.
Yes.
Yeah. You were hoping for the same sort of result?
Yeah, look, I think I'm really open-minded with what I'm going to see Saturday because of our interruptions. I just want to see a really good pace, really good tempo, brilliant attitude, good energy, lovely. You know, when you feel like a team is running for and with each other, I call it harmony. But I want to start seeing the seeds of that harmony of them working as a team. I'm looking forward to seeing the flexibility in them in terms of their shape, because we haven't had practice. And go from there. Block shots, create opportunities, all the things a normal supporter wants to see. Managers want to see that as well. So it'll be a good game. They're a good side. very well coached, very well coached. You know, no doubt in my mind about that. So they'll be good games, and they'll already have a kind of a gauge of where their performance levels are because they've played the one. Ian still won't know because none of us really do. And we're a week back, and we're now trying to see what our gauge of our performance levels are going to be. We might come out of after Saturday and think we need at least another 3 players here. Might come out after Saturday and we all think, gee, League Two, here we come. I mean, it can go heavily one way or the other, can't it?
Yeah. Well, best of luck, Darren. Hope it's a great season.
Thanks, mate. Tom.
Hi Darren, how you doing?
How are you, Lazy? I mean, Paul, how are you? Nah.
Not too bad. I got an optician's appointment, so I've got to rush off after this.
Okay.
When we last spoke, you were saying how much you're in need of a break, and quite rightly so.
Yeah.
You sound reinvigorated. How has your summer been?
No, it was good fun. I mean, we had to work really hard. We've had to try and make every penny count, and so the exhaustive nature of agents and speaking to clubs and players and club visits and showing tours and showing people around the training ground, the club. I mean, it's definitely the hardest I've worked in my time in recruitment. But it's been great. I love meeting new people. I really enjoy the new characters that we got. We got some really weird and wonderful people in our dressing room. And it's nice to get to know them. It's always nice to get to know them. It's always nice to set out new standards, new benchmarks, and things like that. So it's been a really enjoyable pre-season. The COVID thing, maybe took a little bit of an edge off it, but it's been very enjoyable. And like I said, they've been great to work with for me. Some of their capabilities athletically are just disgusting. It makes me sick when I'm watching them. When I watch Charlie Wakefield just bounce around like he hasn't got an energy system to taking in oxygen. It just makes me sick. Every time I go out for a run, it hurts every step. And he bounces around, so no, frightening, some of them, frightening.
And I know you don't normally like busy summers. You mentioned it before when you first came in. You didn't like having to do so much business. But did you maybe need that this summer?
Yeah,
just to
definitely.
refresh and get.
Absolutely, Paul. Absolutely. No, we needed some new characters. We needed some like excitement. People who are excited to play for Yeovil again. I wasn't excited after Lee died. I came to games like a zombie. There's no excitement, no crowd. I liked the Maidenhead game. I liked the Stockport game. I didn't like any of the others. I thought the others were crap. And we just got through it. How we got through it, I don't know, but we just got through it. And I just saw some new characters, especially some young ones. Also heard, that the fans wanted a younger team. They're the viewer. They're the consumer. You have to. I wouldn't say the customer is always right in football, but you still have to hear them. It was important that we got some like vibrancy back into the dressing room and vibrancy back out onto the pitch. And that's the one thing that I expect from them when they play, is that they're vibrant and they're ambitious and they've got stars in their eyes, because these young people should have those.
And it sounds like the new boys have all settled in quite well.
Yeah, very good, very good. There's some, like I said, some weird and wonderful ones. There's some of them like Dale Gorman. Dale Gorman might be a new player to Yeovil, but he's not a new player to Darren Sarll. I've known him probably for a third of his life. So it's an easy one. I know how to manage him straight away. I know what he does. He's a horrible little Irish man. He's not very nice when it comes to winning and losing. But it was an interesting one with Dale, because I was really worried about replacing Charlie's character, not necessarily his playing, but his character. And when I sat with Charlie, I said, Chaz, you're a dying breed. I mean, how do I replace you? He said, you know, there's one lad out there that could do that. I went, really? I know him. Yeah, Dale Gorman. So off we went and tried to do the deal with Glentoran, which was not simple, but we got there. And it's lovely to have him back, because obviously I've known him since he was a teenager, and he's a smashing chap, real smashing guy.
That's great. That's all for me. Good luck for the season, Darren.
Thanks, mate.
Hi Dan, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you, mate.
Good.
This is your third pre-season now at Yeovil, and arguably none of them have been anywhere close to normal. Have you ever felt like you've missed out on anything, or is there anything you would have liked to have done at any point during a pre-season to prep aside for a National League campaign that you haven't been able to do?
That's a really good question. I'll tell you the one that I really enjoyed. This is going to sound really... The 4 weeks we had preparing for the playoff game before we played Barnet, and the players and the staff lived at the ground in the boxes for 4 weeks. It was brilliant. It was like a camp, you know, it was like a football camp, and they were brilliant to work with. And some of the things that went on in that 4 weeks, they'll stay with me, you know, long in the memory. Especially Lee was at his absolute, you know, brilliant best at that time as well. So they're good memories. So that was quite a nice one. But no, it hasn't been normal. But what is, you know, football's like that, and it wasn't even normal. Like getting the job, I think I got the job 3 days before pre-season started. So it's okay. We're still here. We're still punching. We're still trying to do things as best we can, and trying to live up to, you know, what the tradition is of this football club. And no, it's been it. There's a book that could come out of it, isn't there? 3 years at Yeovil. It's definitely a book.
A couple of the guys that you have brought in recently, Adi Youssef and Sonny Blue, Low Everton, obviously, how have they adapted to meeting a group in sort of bits and pieces? They've had to settle in with half a team and then a bit more of a team and a bit more of a team. Have they been okay to settle in amongst it with all this craziness going on?
Yeah. I mean, it's probably been a little bit more difficult for Adi than Sonny. And Sonny, I worked with. He was 15 years old when I was at Watford, and I would play him in the under-23s because he was such a special little footballer. And when you're in development, that's what you do. You progress people nice and quick. And I've been trying for 2 years to get him back to the club. I've been trying to get him for 2 years back to Yeovil. And he's a brilliant footballer. Still needs, I would say, I still think he needs probably a month of familiarising himself with my ways again. First team football, still a young lad, but he's got ridiculous qualities. I mean, I really like working with Sonny. He comes from a brilliant family as well, by the way, so that always gives you half a chance. Addy's probably been more difficult because I haven't known him in the past. We've been speaking pretty much all summer with Addy and his agent, so it was one that was kind of always in the pipeline. It just needed probably key moments to go the right way, and we managed to get him. But good at great age, 29, established in the division, has the capability to score 20 plus goals without a doubt. A very uncomplicated finisher, brutal force and instinct really, rather than, you know, sort of a real flamboyancy or, you know, stuff like that. But good signings, and they've been brilliant in and around the place. And you know, it does help. You know, Wilkinson said when he played against Youssef that he give him a hard time, and all those things are massively important when new players walk into the dressing room, because other players instantly perk up that someone like that is now on their team. Whereas, you know, with Sonny's an unknown. Sonny was an unknown. So, yeah, it's been different for both of them, but they've done great. It would have been ideal if they could have had a little bit longer, definitely. Addy's only had a couple of weeks. He, you know, really needs to kind of spike his fitness levels first before you see him playing week in, week out. But it'd be a really good signing for us, Addy. Really good. He's got that hunger back as well, that real hunger. And sometimes players just need a home and to feel wanted. And Quigley was in that category, definitely. And you know, I'm really looking forward to working with Addy. He's a good guy.
Just to ask a little bit more about Sonny, actually. He was training with Watford's first team. He'd been involved in pre-season alongside Troy Deeney. I mean, he's clearly very highly thought of at Watford. Do you think that's a bit of a coup for Yeovil to be able to get him? And is that because of your previous relationship with him and his family and the Watford setup?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I didn't leave Watford in like clouds of glory. You know, there wasn't banners and sort of like, you know, street parties, let me tell you. But so it was hard. That's the hardest bit. But Sonny and his family made this happen. 100%. You know, they wanted to come and play for me. They wanted to be where I was, which was Yeovil. It played against us for Wealdstone last year, made a massive impression on, you know, the likes of Jimmy Smith and Chris Dagnall. They spoke really well of him. But Sonny made this happen. And like, you know, Sonny was playing for Watford's reserves when he was 15. So he's a good player. You know, he's a very, very good player, and one that I think as the months kind of tick over, we'll see more and more of him, and his qualities will. I've got no doubt that his qualities will end up dictating our way of playing. I really believe that. He is a really gifted young man. Got beautiful balance, the way he moves and the way he uses people's pressure to stay upright and to get a little bit of a yard, and great like that. And very similar when Terry and I were talking about having Sonny. It was James Tilley was brilliant for us in year one. He had that similar balance. I would say Sonny's a better player than James, and probably a bit harsh on James, but who cares? He ain't at Yeovil anymore. So, but you know, Sonny will be a really, really influential member, because there's no one in our group that can do what he does. Sonny needs to get to a point where physically he's at his absolute best, which I don't think he's at yet, and I think he needs to get to a point where everything he does is now maybe not about him and his development, but about Yeovil winning. And I think when you get young players that embrace that when they're on loan, Romeo Hutton did it like almost immediately. It was just, I'm at Yeovil, the only thing that's important is Yeovil. And what that meant was he got more game time, which meant he ended up improving irregardless. And I think once Sonny kind of has that outlook that everything he does is on the behalf of Yeovil winning a game of football, and that's not a criticism of him by any. It's new to him. It's very new to him. I think he's some player. It'll be great when everyone sees the qualities that, you know, I've seen for 3 or 4 years in him.
You alluded to it already a little earlier on, but it is relatively easy to put people onto a football pitch, but it's not easy to replace the characters that we lost at the back end of last season, including a lot of what I would call standard bearers. Who are the standard bearers in the squad that have stepped up and have the new guys replace some of those standards themselves?
Well, Mark Little is an extraordinary person and player. You know, I would happily say he could probably be my best ever signing. I know he's injured now, but his standards, his character, his winning behaviour is just, I mean, it's like a learning curve even for me. I had it once before with Joby McAnuff. Joby McAnuff was very similar to Mark Little. And they have this standard of their life, the way they live it. They have a standard to their football, the way they train. I mean, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So, you know, when Mark's able to play, brilliant. He'll be at games very soon once his cast comes off. And when his cast comes off, he'll be in the dugout, like I do with all my senior players. You know, Ruben Reid will be in the dugout on Saturday. So Reedy's got really great standards. Wilkinson's got standards in a different way. Wilkinson's more of a Wilkinson sets standards in performance rather than telling everyone this is right or wrong. He's not great at that, Lou. But his standard of performance is super high. And then you've got people like Gorman, Josh Staunton. What Josh Staunton went through last year. I mean, Josh lost his best friend to that horrible illness, cancer. Almost had a career-threatening injury, has come back, looks as strong as an ox. You know, these are people with really high standards in life, because if they didn't, Josh would never have recovered from everything that happened. But there's lots, and young people can be leaders. You know, leadership is not based on chronological. It's based on their outlook on life, winning, how they see winning. And you know, I took over as manager at Stevenage in the Football League at 33. I was a leader then. I was a leader, you know, in my early 20s, definitely. So I'm not a big believer that you have to be old to be a good leader. And we just got different people now, different personalities. You see the other ones, the Dickinsons, the Lees, the Jimmy Smiths, the Chris Dagnalls, they could all back up their leadership with when I won League 2 or when I won League 1 or when I got promoted to the Championship or when I did this or so they're all relating to their experiences of what winning looks like. That doesn't mean these young people who haven't had those experiences yet can't be winners and they can't be leaders. So, you know, it's been good. Max Hunt's come back a very grown-up individual. Been really pleased. Alex Bradley came back. When you think of the year they've just been through, why would they not have extra resilience, extra robustness, extra this, extra that? You know, I think it's just natural.
One final one from me then, just to mop up a bit of sort of housekeeping from the back end of last season. It was noted that Lawson Diaz was going to be offered a chance to rehab and potentially look at returning. How is he? Is he about the club? Is he had his surgery? How's his injury going? And is he hopefully going to maybe get the opportunity to trial to get close to being playing again for Yeovil?
I've got this lovely vision, which this is going to put pressure on the owner as well now, which is even funnier. But I've got this lovely vision that in January I'll have a fit Mark Little, I'll have a fit Ruben Reid, and I'll have a fit Lawson Diaz. That's the vision. So no, Lawson's here today. He's at the club now. He's you know, having treatment on a daily basis. He's still living in Yeovil. We're still, you know, in an ideal world, we'd take care of his income and his employment, but we've taken care of his, you know, his accommodation and his recovery and things like that, and all of these sort of elements that go to his post-surgery state. And I'm desperate for Lawson to get back in his shirt and play, because at the end of last year, I saw a different Lawson. It was like a maturity to Lawson. It wasn't this petulant lad running around anymore. It was this real man's version of Lawson Diaz, and he's a very, very good player. Just make no bones about it. So, Scott, if you're listening, I want him for January. Let's do a poll.
We can sort that out. That's no problem. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Go well the weekend.
Thanks, mate. Top man.